Welcome, welcome, welcome. Shimoge here. Put down my phone. You also take off my jacket. Kabunam no goha. Welcome, welcome. Thank you to all my returning viewers. For the new people, let me give a full introduction. My name is Chimoge, that's my given name. I also allow people to call me Moge. Moge is my foremost nickname. I prefer to call it in my language my Ahambu. That translates to my forename. What does that mean? That is the name that is closest in my heart to my given name. Mbu means before, generally speaking, in terms of the thought process of people who speak my language from the same reference point. According to my thought and the addition of my ancestors, it really just means extremely close to. Because after can be a form of imbu. Okay, anyway. My government name is Chimoge Chijoke Ibe. I also have a alternate white structured name that's a longer form of it. Chimoge Chijoke Ibe Mwoko. Ibe is a shortened form of the name Ibe Mwoko, which itself has its own complicated history. That's from my patrilineage. My matrilineal village is Ebemo-Hafi. That's in West Africa. The reference point village for my patrilineage is Algi Urata, also in West Africa. I was born in what people now call Washington, D.C., the southeastern part, about 30 years ago. Particularly at the beginning of 1998 during Capricorn season. I'm a son of Capricorn. I prefer to call the land of my birth Rom. Why? Because we need to stop using unnatural demarcations for places. And also, according to prayer, that area is part of a larger sector of this planet that can be called Ram, which means the sector of Oshun, the shining sector. Obodo Oshimiri. You can also call it Rome, in the language that forms the basis of most of English, Latin. I currently live in the Oshimiri of this world, because each of the things, the 49 things that undergird existence, has a place on this planet where it exists in its fullness as a piece of geography. I'm currently in what people call Atlanta, Georgia, which is a subset of that place. Yeah, look up the sacral chakra of the world. Many people have previously said that Atlanta and the surrounding area is the sacral chakra of the world. Yes, and the sacral chakra is another name for Oshun. Yes. And of course, I'm currently in Atlanta. I live here and I'm standing here. Let me give two quick facts about myself, then we'll get into it. One, I like being around when the sun has just come up. As in, I like being out and about during the time of the morning sun. Two, I do not like cult thinking. That dovetails in with today's message. Thank you for all the views. I've registered them. Every view is a blessing. Thank you as well for all the comments. Every comment is a blessing. I read them at my discretion. Please like, share, and subscribe. All of those are blessings as well. And you can also subscribe on Patreon. You can subscribe for free on Patreon to get notifications when I post art, both free and behind a paywall. And you can do a paid subscription. I'll talk about that at the end of the live stream. Yes. So, seeing if my is there doing right. Anyway, what's the title of today's live stream? I titled it "Debates Between Different Christian Sects Are Nonsense." Sects, SECTS. Again, I can't see the title after I put it up, but based upon these notes I gave myself, I believe that's the exact wording I use. If not, you get what I mean. Anyway, this was inspired by a video title and thumbnail I just saw. It's from the YouTuber Rustlin KD. He's a prominent YouTuber who talks a lot about Christianity. He himself is a Christian. I believe he might also be a pastor. Um, and it said it was something about a debate between different Christian groups, and he put there Protestant versus Orthodox versus Catholic. Those all refer to different Christian sects. A sect is just a subset of a larger group. And this obviously made me angry, and I'll explain why. You see, I'm a big proponent of free thinking. And when I say free thinking, I don't mean the nonsense that people like, yes, I have to say it, Kanye West. Again, I've talked about him before. I talked about him yesterday. More is coming. I'm not talking about the nonsense that people like him have talked about. Just saying anything is not free thinking. I literally mean literally being able to think without putting artificial blocks on your mind based on what various cults have told you. Again, a cult is a group that does not have hard set parameters but has general criteria. You can also call it a movement group or an Obako Ikenga. What does that mean? The parameters of the group are always moving. To be part of the group, according to my ancestors, you have to meet at least 75% of the overall criteria. But no two people have to meet the same criteria, so it's weird. What is the point of this? It's just a way to describe when we perceive things that are not totally real because we just see a bunch of very similar, somewhat overlapping criteria among people. At the same time, these things can often manifest as thought groups. In that case, that is called a cult of the mind. So when I talk about cult thinking, I'm talking about cults of the mind. Again, cults of the mind still do not have hard parameters because at the end of the day, no two people's minds have to engage with the cult's mental criteria in the exact same way. They just have to meet certain overall criteria. Let me take a break. I'm thinking about one thing. Yes. I want to add one thing. As I was speaking, it occurred to me that it is possible, in theory, for a group of people to have literally the exact same thoughts. I say in theory because I'm not sure that can actualize. But I'll just say it like this. If that sort of thing happens, that's no longer a cult. That's even worse. That is a case where multiple people have merged into one person. And they probably will not exist for very much longer. Let me let that air out. I know that's an unpleasant thought. Okay, anyway. So, moving on from what I've just said, getting into the meat of this. Um, I don't like cult thinking. At the same time, after cults have exploded into the world as they have in our world today, I'm a big proponent of honesty. Part of honesty is people being able to speak. You see, when cults debate among themselves, free thought is impossible and free speech runs away. You see, I've seen many instances where Christians have debated among themselves, and for background context, um, I was raised. I'm thinking of more metaphysically accurate ways to describe this reality. Um, and I'll just try and say it here. I hope you know what I mean. I was raised in an environment where I was expected to be an adherent of the Catholic Church, at least up to a certain point. And when I say at least up to a certain point, there was also a degree of secularism put in there. But I was expected to be an adherent of the Catholic Church in line with at least the stated positions of my dad and his family members. And then overall, coming from my mother, the people I'm related to through my mother, again, just to speak generally, there was also just a general sense that I should adhere to Christianity in general. Again, I'm a big fan of not obsessing over one's childhood thoughts. So I'm not really going to comment on what I was or wasn't as a child. All I'll just say is by the time I was an adult, mentally I didn't agree with the necessary tenets of Christianity. At least here we go, because obviously it's a cult, so no two people have to think the same. But I had too many deviations in my thought and internal life to really be considered a Christian. I just didn't talk about it because I didn't want to get in fights with people. And quite frankly, I had bigger fish to fry. You know, I've talked about euphemisms emerging in my lineage even before the one that hit me most directly emerged. I'd heard of a euphemistic reproduction, and also there was general disconnection. On top of that, there's just other stuff going on. Um, or it's better to say I was just very concerned with how little people I knew. Again, I wanted to know more people, and then certain people I knew had certain problems that concerned me in terms of whether or not I could go on associating with them. Anyway, the whole point is based off of that as well as research and study, both academically. Okay, I studied religion formally, really at every level of school. And then I also just did research on my own. I continue to. Based off of that, I have a very good understanding of Christianity, okay? Um, and religion in general. And because of this, I've seen many instances of Christians arguing among themselves. Now, I'm not going to deny people in a cult personhood. So, because of that, I'm never going to say it's always bad for them to debate. However, there are two types of debates that are related to this thumbnail I've seen. And again, this video, I believe, I have to check it again. I believe it's not yet out. It might be an upcoming live stream, or at least it's some sort of scheduled video. I'll check it out, and really, I'll probably break it down on several live streams. I'll probably break it down. But anyway, and also it goes without saying, this is not a personal disagreement with Ruslan KD. I've never met him. I haven't even watched too many of his videos. It's just, he's a prominent person. Anyway, there are two types of arguments in line with this that I've seen that are very unhelpful. One, arguing that other Christians are not quote unquote really Christians because they don't believe the way you do. Let me move. So there's that argument, one. And then two, and these things often dovetail, although again, no two people engage with them the same way. Well, I'll just say no two people necessarily engage with them the same way. Um, you know, I've seen. I'll just leave it at that. But anyway, the second argument is that arguing that only your sect of Christianity will avoid going to HE double hockey sticks. Let me move again. Okay, forgive me, I'm just having some thoughts. Now, some people might say that's the exact same thing. It's not. Because there are many Christians who, to be fair to them, do not think that a non-Christian is necessarily going to suffer a bad fate after they pass. They have many ways of engaging with this. But that's still it's still unhelpful in discourse to not acknowledge that other people meet the criteria for Christianity because you can't even begin. I've seen many instances where people, and I must say, again, I tend to use them as examples a lot. I just want to be clear. Um, you know, I'll just say evangelical and what's the other term I use? Is it evangelical? think my ancestors are censoring me. Whatever. Evangelical. I'll just say charismatic. Um, Pentecostal. That's the third one. I think they just wanted me to add in charismatic. Whatever. That thing is all the same thing, really. They're very easy to lampoon. Forgive me, and I'm just saying this. Whenever I'm looking at people through the lens of a cult, that's a limit I'm putting on myself for discourse. Like a lot, like if I take off that lens, a lot of those people are just people. It's just, when you start talking about Christianity and or you go to church, it becomes something else. Let me move. Anyway, the point is, I tend to use them as examples a lot, but there are several other sects of Christianity that are not necessarily better. Again, I've been very criticism of Catholicism in the past. I've maintained overall one is not better than the other, and again, you can break down different aspects of Catholicism versus that other continuum, and look at their pros and cons as you can with other divisions. I'm just looking overall because at the end of the day, I just want us all to rise above this stuff. Um. Anyway, the whole point I'm making is that I've seen many instances, particularly when talking to evangelicals and the like. Although I'm sure other people do it, I've seen that some, just not as much. Of constantly saying to someone who's criticizing Christianity, whether that be a Christian or a non-Christian, that those people you're referring to aren't really Christians, and or the reverse. If you criticize these people, they say, "No, I'm a true Christian. You just don't understand me." This doesn't make sense, especially when the argument hinges upon tying them to the group. That's just not good. So these people might not necessarily say that everyone else is gonna fall into the fire after they perish, but they're still just making it impossible to talk. And I'll leave it at that. Then there's a second category, which is more upsetting, obviously, although, again, um, sometimes maybe you could talk to these people a little more. It's still not helpful for discourse. People who say that only their sect of Christianity is going to heaven, or said really more honestly, everyone else is going to fall into the fire. Doesn't make sense. You see, constantly thinking about how to go forward talking about so-called spirituality and religion. And one of my biggest challenges is how to speak in a metaphysically accurate manner, both so that I promote good ideas and also for my own sanity. Because at some point, we all have to acknowledge the demarcations we make in common discourse and common life do not make any sense. And I'll leave it at that. As part of that, I have to engage with people's obsession over quote unquote salvation, and more honestly, I'll just call it falling into the fire. You see, I believe in justice, and I'll just say it like this. I don't believe in cosmic justice just because it feels nice. It just also makes logical sense, and there are many reports, both historically and currently, that it's a thing, and I'll leave it at that, right? So because of that, I know that if someone does something bad and doesn't repent before they pass, there will be some sort of consequence after they pass away. At the same time, I'm really not obsessed with that for two reasons. One, even if someone falls into the fire, and there are different levels of the fire, you have purgatory, elu, or enu as I also call it, the extreme, purgation. And then you have ewu, H-E double hockey sticks. Ewu is the worst place to go. If you go there, we should pretend like your previous life didn't happen. And I'll leave it at that. But, even if someone goes there, they can repent. The whole point is for them to repent. These are just different methods of reforming the person. Once the person is reformed, they can, and I'm just saying that by technicality, because virtually no one would choose not to come back. But virtually no one would choose not to come back. But really, once you come back, you're alive and you have a clean slate. So if you just look at, again, every life matters, but overall existence matters as well. So if you just look at overall existence, what you can call someone's azundu, their life back, you can always get your life back. So there's no reason obsessing over falling into the fire. Two, and really I'm going to add three things. Maybe I'll just say this is number two. Two, I'm not a bad person. And mm, I'll just again, our planet's in a bad state. Forgive me, and you know me. There are people outside of this planet too. And then, for record, not animals are people too. Okay, if you think we shouldn't worry about the moral character of animals, just think about the character of a dog who continues to make a mess on the street. And I just want to say this: we shouldn't be owning dogs at the same time they don't help themselves. Let me move. I'm just saying they could go under the tree and bury it or something. uh, anyway, they're really not for us to punish, but we can pray that they be better. And yes, stop owning them. And I'll just leave it at that. Anyway, and also say this. Just because it knows that it's annoying you doesn't mean it understands 99% of what you do. So don't think that when you're talking to it, it's going to talk back. Anyway, um, what am I getting at here? The vast majority of people in this universe, in this world, in heaven, yes, we are in heaven, and I'll just keep saying it, after you pass away, unless you get punished, you're still in heaven. It's just most of our time in heaven is supposed to be spent alive. Yes, there are multiple copies of us. Each life leaves a copy in the spirit that goes on and then constantly actively reincarnates. I'm still learning about it, but long story short, feel good about being alive. That's really my goal here with this next point. I know I'm a good person. The vast majority of people in existence are good people. We don't even have to look into the fire. It's really not that interesting to me. It's just we have crime. And I'll leave it at that. Side note, as a baseline there is some interest, probably more than the normal person for me, of learning about Oseburu in general. It's just one, there are a lot of very unpleasant things that my ancestors have to constantly beam into me in my mind's eye. The same way that, I don't know, maybe I'm just using this example. Forgive me if I'm not humble enough. The same way that maybe a leader's advisor will constantly be showing them a paper about some unpleasant statistics. Let me move. Sounds nice over here. I look out, I see the sun. Anyway, so yeah, I have a baseline interest in everything, but relative to everything I'm looking at, it's towards the bottom end to be looking into the fire. Um, really, I just rather look at more pleasant things. Now, point three. What we call evil, and I maintain most of what happens in the world that people call evil is actually worse than evil. I want us to start saying that thing shouldn't exist. Most of that stuff should not exist. The implications of that is we're not naturally designed to be obsessing over falling into the fire. You see. And hence you see why I'm focusing more on the second point. But that doesn't mean that the first point isn't about as bad. That is ille. That is ille to deny the basic truth. What am I getting at here? In order to advance ourselves morally and yes, physically, because the physical is important. I'm not a Greek mythologist. In order to advance ourselves, we have to have honest discourse and we have to have discourse in good faith. You see, if you believe that someone you're talking to is going to fall into the fire, why are you even talking to them? And if for some reason circumstance forced you to, why are you talking about the fire? I'll just leave it at that. Let's, one, be more honest about certain things. How can a Catholic look at a Protestant and say, even though you have that cross and that white Jesus up on your wall, you're not a Christian because the bread you eat on Sunday is different? You know, how can that happen? That doesn't make sense. And I'm just going to leave that example at that. There are many other variations of what I'm saying. How can that be happening and we expect to have honest discourse? That doesn't make any sense. I'll leave it at that. And then two, it's just very illogical to say that even people who are extremely similar to you are not going to be going to heaven with you. At some point, you then have to ask, what is the point of heaven if there's only 144,000 people there? Anyway, thank you very much. Peace out. I'll see you next time. Please patronize the business as well. Thank you.